LoreWarrior Armour Double Feature. Pegasus Scout Hover Tank. Overview. A popular and successful light reconnaissance vehicle used by all armies of the successor states, the Pegasus was an ideal candidate for upgrading after the truce. The High Command of the Draconis Combine Mustard Soldiery commissioned Scarborough manufacturers of Al-Nair to bring the Pegasus in line with rediscovered Star League-era technologies. When the DCMS asked that the Pegasus be provided with the latest electronics to enhance its reconnaissance role, Scarborough reluctantly informed the High Command that their facility could not provide this specific high-tech equipment. Taking advantage of the détente between House Kurita and House Davian, Scarborough negotiated for parts with two Federated Commonwealth manufacturers of state-of-the-art weapons and electronics, Valiant Systems and Wunderland Enterprises. This partnership has allowed the Scarborough plant to revamp their electronics division and incorporate the requested modifications. Capabilities. The designers of the Pegasus made room for all their modifications by replacing the tank's ICE engine with a compact fusion design. The DCMS wanted the new Pegasus to have a sophisticated electronics package, and the new design delivers. Wunderland and Scarborough engineers created the Tracky 3 targeting system with Beagle Active Probe and Tag, which allows the Pegasus to scout ahead and locate concealed enemy forces, and then call down artillery fire. The Guardian ECM suite fitted to the vehicle's communications array effectively disrupts enemy systems. The Pegasus is not designed for a stand-up fight. It uses its impressive top speed of 130 kph to conduct hit-and-fade operations. The Pegasus is fast enough to outrun virtually any opponent, and those it can't escape must face its twin-turreted short-range missile racks. The Pegasus also uses a pulse laser to defend itself when cornered, and 6.5 tons of Protect 12 ferrofibrous armour give the vehicle adequate protection for its intended role. Deployment. Scarborough has agreed to supply Pegasus vehicles to the AFFC in return for the help of Federated Commonwealth manufacturers, and the Pegasus is beginning to turn up in AFFC and DCMS units. The Pegasus fulfills its mission best when paired with artillery assets, so that it can instantly call down fire on any enemy it finds. 3058 Upgrade Overview. When Scarborough manufacturers began the developmental phase of upgrading the Pegasus, it was decided that it would be best to do more than just a standard armour upgrade to ferrofibrous. Centred around changing the ancient but cheap internal combustion engine to a lighter fusion model, a large amount of weight was freed for the more advanced and sophisticated equipment. However, though able to produce the Guardian electronic countermeasure suite, Scarborough needed help outside in manufacturing equipment such as the much-desired pulse lasers and active probes. The solution came when Scarborough was authorised to approach several Federated Commonwealth companies for assistance, and in the wake of the surge of cooperation between the once rival powers, the foreign companies agreed with the condition that the upgraded Pegasus be sold to the eager Federated Commonwealth military, as well as the DCMS. The condition was accepted, and soon the advanced hover tank was spotted in both militaries. However, shipments to the AFFC halted when troops from the Draconis March invaded the Draconis Combine during the Fedcom Civil War. Tancred Sandoval, replacing his father as the Lord of the Draconis March, was on the verge of reopening trade with the Al-Nair-based factory when evidence of the Combine holding POWs came to light. Since then, negotiations have broken off, and Federated Sons troops have raided the production line several times, capturing several dozen of the newly produced vehicle. Capabilities. Though satisfied with the original sensor suite mounted, Scarborough felt the need to modify the Pegasus more to deploy the newly developed electronics warfare equipment not seen since the fall of the original League. A Beagle active probe and targeting acquisition gear are installed to detect ambushes and call in friendly artillery fire, while the Guardian ECM suite keeps the tank out of harm's way. For self-defense, Scarborough kept the original pair of tried and true SRM-6s. However, they opted to switch the medium laser for a heavier pulse version. To round out things, the armour was switched to the more popular ferrofibrous, further enhancing the survivability. If the Pegasus has a weakness, it's that its missiles have only 15 rounds between them, far below that most vehicles and crews would be comfortable with. However, the crews are reminded that their weapons are for last-ditch defence and not frontline duty. Deployment. Although many operations involving Pegasus units are clandestine operations or remain classified for other purposes, there are many accounts of Pegasus-equipped units operating in a more combative capacity than is recommended. These deployments are often attributable to the ruggedness of the vehicle, and several recon units have earned the right to consider themselves frontline troops as a result of such assignment. One such event was recorded in April of 3068, when Blake's troops were assaulting Deeren. A DEST unit was being escorted out from behind enemy lines by a nearby reconnaissance detachment when it was attacked by a pair of Rapier aerospace fighters. The courier was attached to a security convoy consisting of various hover vehicles, including a pair of Pegasus. This force was hoping to move to a secure location in the eastern reaches of the scales of the Dragonet Mountains, and was several kilometers away from their secure area when the aerospace fighters spotted them. The convoy split in half, hoping to draw the fighters away. One fighter split off to pursue those who left the convoy, but the other remained behind to harass the courier's vehicle and the pair of escorting Pegasus. Though one lucky strike crippled the courier's vehicle, the two recon tanks provided such good anti-aircraft fire that the DEST unit was able to make it to the secure location on foot, while the Pegasus tanks fought off the aerospace fighter. Variants. The Draconis Combine released a C3-compatible version in 3070 as part of their massive push to take advantage of their revolutionary tactical command and control system. Boosting its speed, Scarborough changed out the entire weapon system for a pair of medium pulses and a pair of Streak 4s to act as a close-in spotter for C3 companies. Another variant that surfaced during the Dominion Combine War replaces the Beagle Probe, the medium pulse laser, and the SRMs with an MRM-20, 2 tons of ammo, and an ER medium laser, an extra half-ton of ferrofibrous offering extra protection, while the targeting acquisition gear is exchanged for a C3 Slave. Slight fuck up near the end with the Dominion War bit, it's like trying to read these things cold, sorry. Mass 35 tons, movement type hover, power plant Scarborough 105 fusion, cruise speed of 86 kph with flank speed of 130 kph. Its armor is Protect 12 ferrofibrous, armed normally with a single Victory Heartbeat medium pulse laser, that's a nice one, and 2 Valiant Pilum SRM racks. Yeah, it's manufactured by Scarborough manufacturers, primary factory on Al Nair. Communication system is the Scarborough Talkie 3 with Guardian ECM, and its targeting and tracking is the Scarborough Tracky 3 with Beagle Active Probe and Tag. Stat-wise, this translates into a vehicle that can cruise at 8 and flank at 12 with 10 single, double doesn't really matter with vehicles, but 10 heatsinks overall. It has a armor value with 30 on the front, 20 on the sides, 20 on the rear, and 26 on the turret. Not bad for a 35-ton vehicle. Its 2 SRM-6s are located in the turret, with the 15 shots split between them, and the medium pulse laser in the front of the vehicle. The Beagle Probe is also located in the front, which makes sense because that's detecting, and the Guardian ECM is just located generically in the body, while the tag laser is also mounted in the front. Pegasus, they're great. They've been around for ever and ever. They were a relatively, although the write-ups describes these vehicles as something that isn't usually something that's meant for frontline combat, you look at the stats and it's actually not too bad. Considering the units that these things would generally encounter, light mechs and medium mechs that have got decent speed, 30 points of armor on the front is nothing to sniff at. It would be difficult for most mechs to penetrate that armor quite quickly. In a single salvo. It would take a couple of turns of fire, and the risk of return fire is quite high, especially later on when you do have a pair of SRM-6 and a medium pulse laser that can fire at you in a single turn. That's a fair amount of potential damage there. Obviously, the main downside with any vehicle is motive checks, which I think a lot of people tend to forget, is that if a vehicle is attacked from the side or the rear, you roll 2d6 when you don't do that, but anyway, I'll get to it. Motive checks basically are, you roll to hit. When you hit, you may hit a location and you have to roll a motive check afterwards. These can stack up. The more hits and the more motive rolls that you get means that there's multiple chances of this happening. Motive checks are very bad for vehicles. More often than not, they will end up being things like reduction in speed or difficulty for the driver to be able to make certain driving skill checks. Higher levels, though, can be things where the vehicle can basically become, trapped. It can have its track shot off, or in the case of hover vehicles, much more spectacularly, they can just crash into the ground and become immediately, immobile, which is bad news for quite a lot of hover vehicles, and they can suffer motive checks a lot more easily. So although the Pegasus and a lot of other hover vehicles can have pretty good equipment and move fast, they need that speed. Because, yeah, a single motive check can be basically the end of the fight for them. Especially depending on if they're attacked from the rear or the side. You roll 2d6, whatever your result is, you add either a +1 or a +2 to that roll. So if you're in 11 or 12 territory, yeah, the vehicle's pretty much done for the fight. It's very rare that any crew is going to stick around after their hover vehicle has just been, well, grounded. That said, though, a group of these things, because they're cheap, 35 ton, can do pretty good damage. They can move around fairly quickly, and they can harass, which is what they're meant for, really. A move of 12 is still pretty decent as far as speed is concerned, especially in straight line movement. Gives them nice protection in their incoming fire roll. And yeah, I mean, they're only suffering the +2 from the movement, so they've got a pretty decent chance of being able to hit you and be protected in return. So yeah, it's not bad. But that's me rambling about the Pegasus for the second time. Obviously, the 3058 upgrade sort of moves it a bit further along in the timeline. You get to find out a little bit more about what's going on, who was using it, and what kind of upgrades came about. So as always, thanks for listening. Have a good one, everybody, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.